Hey there, it's your host Dan. Today's cheap and easy DIY. We're going to be replacing the rear hatch lift supports and also the hood lift supports on a 4th generation, or otherwise what's called a C4 Corvette, which are the years from 84 to 96. These parts I got from Rock Auto. The hood lift supports were $6.50, very inexpensive for that part. I also popped for the hatch ones too. They were $14.50, so it's about $42 in parts total. By the time you add the tax and shipping, it'll probably be $50 and some change to your door. I've taken everything out of the box, and one thing to note is that on my rear shocks here, this one has this foam insulator on it, and this one doesn't. It's not like it's in the box or anything. This really shouldn't come off easily. This just didn't come with it. So I'm going to take one of my rear shocks off to begin with, just to make sure I'm not going to have any problems. I'm not sending parts back or ordering different parts. I'll demonstrate in a moment how this easily pops off. But it's a little bit different here on the end. It's got this kind of rubbery kind of cushion on the end instead of like this cheap foam ring on it. And it doesn't seem like it wants to come off at first. And I found if you get your fingernails under the edges on both sides and kind of pry it, it will just come right off. So I think I'm going to put this on the new shock because this just looks kind of cheesy, this foam here. And it'll look a lot more factory original this way. This will be easy to transfer over. And just be careful when you're squeezing it over that terminal, so you don't like try to push it backwards and bust it off. But it should be in about maybe about 3/8 1/4 inch. Just to note, the release mechanism on the replacement shock is a lot easier than the factory shock. It has like a little metal spring clip that goes around, and there's 2 little slots here which you can easily get a little flat blade screwdriver in, pry it up just a little bit, and that'll pull it backwards so you can easily get it off the ball stud. So first thing is to disconnect the electrical lead at the end of the shock. This one happened to be on so tight that I just used a screwdriver to help pry it up and off, because you got to be careful that you don't yank on this or it'll pull the end out of the defroster grid. That's step one. Get it off here at the top and then disconnect it at the bottom. At the end of the shock there's a little release tab, and you can easily push it back with like a bent metal tool. A screwdriver isn't really going to give you the angle to get in here. You bend the little tab back towards the rear, lift up on the glass just a little bit, and this will pop loose. To push that little retaining clip back, I use this tool here from Snap-on, but not everybody's going to have a tool like this. So here's another easy alternative. Go to like your pegboard and get something like this, like a hook. And I've tried this, and yes, this does work. And you can get it in there to push that tab away and pull the lift support off just like that too, although it's a little easier using a tool like that. Now I'm still holding on to the hatch glass with my hand here in the corner, and I could pretty much just wiggle that end off right there. It'll just pop off. That's how easy this shock is to get off. Okay, I'll set this down. I'm gonna slowly lower the hatch down, just temporarily, not all the way, and go prep it for the new shock. Transferred the rubber ball end over the new shock once again, and here on this new shock, that end terminal's pushed down a little bit. It should be more kind of coming up and going at a right angle. So I'll just take a moment to use a little needle nose here and just gently bend that tab back. This way I'm not doing it in the car. Just be a little easier here. There we go. Just real gently. I want to have it so it's bent back parallel kind of with the strut. Okay, let's go install the shock. The install really couldn't be any simpler. Just keep in mind that these come in a left and a right version. It's the same shock, but the only difference is that little tab will be 180 degrees different from the left and the right. So we'll open the hatch once again. I've got it supported, and I'll kind of just reach in there and that'll just snap right on. And then same thing here with the top. It will just snap right into place. the wire on here. Just be careful when you're putting it on. That snaps in. And then plug in the wire at the other end. Sure that's on there nice and secure. And we're done. It's pretty simple. Switching that little bumper here on the end not only makes it look more factory, but I believe when your target top is in the hatch area here, these little bumpers push just on the very corners of it to get it a little more stability. And I think it's better to use this factory bumper than this kind of basic universal one that came on the shock itself. Before, when I would pop the hatch, it might only open an inch or two, sometimes get stuck on the weather stripping. It would open fully, but I would have to help it to get it open all the way. Here, I'm going to hit the remote and let's check out the difference. Pretty much like the way it should be. Alright, let's move on to the hood supports. The supports are going to have a little clip that holds them on. It's pretty easy to get on and off. I'm going to use my little hooked dental tool. You could use a screwdriver or whatever. Just be careful not to drop this pin, because if you do, you probably aren't going to find it. And there's a little washer on here too. Be careful removing that washer once again so you don't drop it in the nose of the car. There we go. Use both hands to get this thing off. There we go. Just a little flat washer is all. Remove that on the top, remove that on the bottom. Once the bottom clip's removed, the shock will pretty much just pull right off of there. Okay, I'm attached at the bottom. Pretty simple here. Slides on. Get our washer back on and put our clip back in place. There we go. Easy as that. Let's go do the driver's side. Driver's side now installed. One thing to note on the driver's side, at least on my year, the 85, I had to undo the hood support here. This way I can push the hood forward because the shock is long enough where it's not going to fit quite on the stud down there. So unless you push the hood forward, you're never going to get it on there. You won't have enough leverage, enough force to push the shock downward to get it on there. That's really the answer, is undoing this. And if you've already replaced the driver's side, one brand new shock will pretty much hold the hood up. But that's the key to getting the second one on. And also here too, one of those little spring clips, there was a regular cotter pin in here, and of course a lot of times when you take out regular cotter pins they break, and I just don't happen to have any, so I used a finishing nail for now just to hold that in there. That will really hold it forever, but I'll get the proper one at the hardware store next time I'm there. But that's a neat little simple trick. In case you happen to drop one of those and lose those, you can use a finishing nail just to kind of get you by for now. With the struts installed, it actually overextends my little secondary support rod here, but that's okay because if I kind of pull on the hood, it's always going to lock into place here in case anybody pushes on the hood. It doesn't slam somebody in here. Now if I do pull that back a little bit, let's see, right about, they're still supporting. Right about there is when the weight of the hood starts to take over. If I'm lowering it down, I can feel the weight of the hood. It's a lot less than it used to be because the original hood shock supports were completely blown out. Let's go take a look at those. Our hood supports, look at that. Deader than a doornail. Nothing. I mean, these were just added weight to the car. They were so useless. Here's the factory part number on the hood lifts, 1404-3065, in case you don't want to go aftermarket and you want to buy the GM parts, but these are going to cost you a lot more money. And then for the struts, the factory part number was 1406-0253 and 1406-0254. Just also wanted to make mention that those little socket ends on the factory hood lift supports, they will unscrew off the very ends. So if you were so inclined, I suppose you could switch these over to the new ones. I didn't feel the need to do so, but nonetheless I'm gonna hang on to just these ends in case, you know, and you never know, what if I had some day gotten a broken terminal on one, I have free parts I can switch it over to. The shocks, the front ones are completely gone. The back ones work only at about 20%. You don't rebuild parts like this, so they're going straight in the trash. There we go. Easy peasy DIY. You can get it done for about 50 bucks versus paying hundreds at a dealer. Hope you enjoyed the tips here and watching the video, and as always, thanks for watching.